How could you possibly have this money to pay for all these blind people unless you did something illicit in order to get them? All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. I am your host, Lech, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Let's party. So I'm sure you heard last week when Mr. Beast put out his video curing blindness. You would think that that was all sunshine and rainbows, literally. People could finally see sunshine and rainbows for the first time. But of course, the internet found a way to make that a bad thing. I was amazed that people could find a way to turn this into something negative, but they did. There's been a bunch of viral clips that have gone around, like from Hasan and stuff, but there's a video here that I want to share with you guys that's a little bit more in depth and is taking a little bit more of a meta look at the whole thing, what is going on here. So let's jump in and you'll see exactly what I mean.
If you were on the internet a couple weeks ago, you might have gotten caught up in the seemingly absurd debate about whether or not it's good to pay for 1,000 blind people to have a cataract surgery that restored their sight.
It is. Just in case there's any confusion, that is a good thing.
And this wasn't Jesus coming back for round 3. A guy named Jimmy paid for it. But for those just getting out of a 2-week digital detox, the deal is this. YouTuber Mr. Beast posted a video in which they paid for the surgery for 1,000 people.
In this video, we're curing 1,000 people's blindness,
while sweetening the deal with bonus prizes like free Teslas and piles of cash.
So I'll see you at the end of the video when we surprise him with a brand new Tesla.
And before we go any further, let me state this plainly and clearly. It is objectively good that these individuals were able to get access to medical treatment that drastically increases their quality of life. Okay, you got it?
Yes, I got it. But now you're about to do the rest of your video on how that's not the case, it seems.
Great. But the video was accompanied by controversy. Some accused Mr. Beast of more or less making these individuals dance for their supper because being willing to appear in his video seems like it was maybe a prerequisite for receiving the surgery.
How exactly do you expect him to afford 1,000 surgeries without money coming in? That is how any charity or business, for that matter, works.
One tweet called the video demonic. Others accused him of doing good for online clout.
Even if it is for online clout, even if he had no care for any of these people, they can still see. So what's the issue?
And others went as far as to use this as evidence that Mr. Beast is exhibiting antichrist tendencies. Now, while that's obviously a bonkers thing to say, Jesus did restore sight to the blind, and the Bible warns that when the Antichrist comes, he'll trick us with Christ-like miracles. But we think that the critiques that focus on Mr. Beast, aka Jimmy Donaldson, and the morality or immorality of the video are missing the more interesting point.
Okay, we're missing the larger point, the more interesting point. Okay, let's see what it is.
As the most crucial thing, and something pointed out by Hasan Piker in a viral clip, is that the real problem with this video is that it both points out the dystopian state of American healthcare, while also showing the ways in which our current system depends on the charity of the ultra-wealthy.
So it really takes a look at the system itself and saying that, well, if these people could so easily have been cured of their blindness, why did it take this one YouTuber to be able to do it? Which is a fair point. But I don't understand why that backlash came specifically to Mr. Beast. Like, that is how the healthcare system was before the video came out. It's just ironic that nobody ever wants to talk about issues until somebody does something good in the way that's just not good enough.
So let's get into this Wisecrack edition on charity for clicks. Is there a better way? But before we get into it...
Exactly. Is there a better way? Sure. I'm sure there is. But that doesn't mean that this is bad. So what are we talking about?
Now, this isn't the first time Mr. Beast has pulled off charitable stunts. In fact, his massive success can be traced back to a series of early videos where he walks around town giving stacks of money to unhoused people.
What a horrible person. And notice he's unhoused. Unhoused. Okay, so now we're getting a cue into the other types of thinking that this person has. Because most people would just say homeless.
Strategy later used by another Jimmy in his video for God's plan. As Mr. Beast has said himself,
Jimmy.
Giving away money on camera makes for the exact type of viral content that will subsequently make him even more money.
And again, that is not a bad thing. What is wrong with being rewarded for doing good things?
Look at stunts like this and see someone instrumentalizing vulnerable people for content. Others see a well-intentioned individual using their platform and wealth to make a positive impact. Now, I'll be totally honest with you guys. The recent video and the discussion around it had me feeling pretty conflicted. Now, on the one hand, I think it's amazing that people were given the opportunity to have life-changing surgery. On the other, it feels dystopian to live in a world where a billionaire YouTuber, famous for stunts like burying himself alive and surviving solitary confinement, is responsible for providing much-needed healthcare to people in a totally arbitrary fashion.
So, first of all, what does his other videos have to do with who he is and why he is the one to or not to give people this opportunity? That I don't get. That just seems like bad framing right there. You're trying to set up your argument. And again, the system was exactly the same the day before. The only thing that's different is 1,000 people can now see, and some of them have cars and $10,000 and all this stuff. So, hey, I'm with you. I'm with you that the system is not great. And I think if the conversation was more about, look at all this awareness that Mr. Beast has brought to this issue of healthcare. Let's jump off that and continue his good works, or at least to have a conversation in terms of why they shouldn't be necessary anymore. But that's not what happened. As we just saw, people were literally calling Mr. Beast himself, the guy who paid for all of this. Whether or not he got paid, whether or not he still paid for it, he still facilitated all of this. They called him the Antichrist.
It feels even more sinister that this act of charity is then made into content that is fed into an algorithm that collects data to further bolster a massive marketing platform to benefit an already successful content creator.
Why? What is this content creator doing? Curing blindness in people? Why would we want that person to get more money?
While, in essence, reducing these people to having their vital needs met into mere fodder for our own entertainment.
Was he going in there making fun of people? Was he going in there and be like, oh, you're still a loser because you can't see? No, he was just saying, here's the thing that you need help with, and I'm willing to help you. Yes, I'm going to get some profit on the back end. Ask any one of those 1,000 people if they actually care about that.
But like I said before, we're not here to try to answer if this is all good or bad or right or wrong, especially when we don't really know the conditions behind the production. Like, were people only given the chance to have the surgery if they agreed to appear on camera?
Again, even if that were the case, then I would have no issue with that. How exactly is he supposed to pay for 1,000 surgeries if he doesn't have a way to bring in that money? So obviously you have to be part of the video so that he can finance whatever he's going to do next.
Instead, we want to consider why we exist in a system where people with money and platforms are de facto responsible for acts of charity and justice. And further, what does this tell us about the state of the world? Now, doing philanthropic stunts wasn't invented on YouTube. American philanthropy has been used for hundreds of years by the ultra-rich to give back to their communities in various ways. As journalist Anand Giridharadas writes in his book, Winners Take All, the late historian Peter Dobkin Hall, an authority on the American giving tradition, traces it back to the late 17th and early 18th centuries, as the colonial trading commodities magnified differences in wealth and created an increasingly visible population of poor and dependent people for whom the public was expected to take responsibility. In the late 19th and early 20th century, this led to a bunch of super rich dudes creating foundations to divvy up pieces of their massive wealth. As Giridharadas writes, these foundations were, in other words, allowing a small handful of wealthy people like Carnegie and Rockefeller to commit monumental sums of money to the public good, and thus gain a say in the nation's affairs that rivaled that of many public officials. And some liked this seemingly Robin Hood-esque turn from the Gilded Era's robber barons, even if they had gained their wealth through things like monopolistic behavior, or underpaying their workers, or violently shutting down union strikes.
I kind of want to break this up so I don't get copyright claimed. I'm learning a lot. I mean, this is historically accurate, so, no problems here so far.
Others, like noted New York City cowboy Teddy Roosevelt, disagreed, arguing that no amount of charities in spending such fortunes can compensate in any way for the misconduct in acquiring them.
Aha. And so again, now we have the actual heart of the issue. The issue is, how could you possibly have this money to pay for all these blind people unless you did something illicit in order to get them. What is the quote? No amount of charities in spending such fortunes can compensate in any way for the misconduct in acquiring them. So the argument here is that even though it is good that all of these people are now able to see, the fact that they had to get their sight through these means shows that Mr. Beast must have done something wrong in order to get the money to do it. Whether or not that's true, he would still have that money without doing the surgeries. So if we're not arguing about the fact that if you have immense wealth, that there's some kind of squirrely stuff going on somewhere, which, I don't necessarily agree with anyway, but let's just say that for the sake of argument, that nobody becomes a billionaire following all the rules and being nice to everybody. Okay, fine. Fine. But are they going to not be billionaires anymore if they're not giving away money? Or are there two separate things where there's going to be people getting money in illicit ways, and some of those people are going to use some of that money for good stuff? Why would you want to take away the good part if it doesn't help the bad part?
Others noted the fundamentally anti-democratic nature of these types of foundations, who got to decide which groups or individuals were worthy of much-needed services without the masses having a say. According to Reverend John Hayes Holmes, a Unitarian minister and chairman of the ACLU, my standpoint is the whole thought of democracy. From this standpoint, it seems to me that this foundation, the very character, must be repugnant to the whole idea of a democratic society.
Why?
But Geert notes,
wait, when did that? So the whole thing
repugnant to the whole idea of a democratic society.
My standpoint is the whole thought of democracy. From this standpoint, seems to me that the foundation must be repugnant to the whole idea of a democratic society. If you have any idea what that means, please let me know in the comments below, because I don't have a clue.
But Geert notes that while criticism of the philanthropy industry was common 100 years ago, now it's basically been accepted as a universal societal good. As he notes, when a book slightly critical of modern philanthropy was reviewed by the New York Times, the reviewer said, "Many readers will be ready to throw up their hands in exasperation. So now we're supposed to fret about rich people being too socially conscious?"
No, you're not supposed to be worried about that. That's the whole point, is that you're just supposed to realize that, okay, in the one hand, there are rich people who get wealthy through illicit means, and separately, despite that fact, there's still some benefit from it because of the philanthropic things that they do. That's it.
What exactly does this guy want?
For you to stop complaining about everything.
Comment mirrors much of the online discourse in the wake of the Mr. Beast.
Exactly. Look at this meme here. Look at this tweet. The Chronically Online. Rich people should help the poor. Mr. Beast helps the poor. Everyone. Wait, that's illegal. Can't win. Can't win.
Beast video. And it seems like today, most people, even those who might self-identify as vaguely progressive or liberal, are still followers, whether implicitly or explicitly, of Carnegie's famous gospel of wealth. For him, inequality wasn't to be rejected as universally bad, but is to be accepted as a necessary condition for the very wealth accumulation that would allow Carnegie and his buddies to throw stacks at poor people.
That's such an unfair characterization of that. The idea is that if everybody is equal, then nobody is better than anybody else. And those of us who work harder would like to be rewarded than those who don't do jack. And so in order for that system to be maintained, then there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. If you don't want to be a loser, then just do better. Now, of course, there's more nuance to that, but at the end of the day, that's all it really boils down to.
To quote Carnegie, "We accept and welcome, therefore, as conditions to which we must accommodate ourselves, great inequality of environment, the concentration of business, industrial and commercial, in the hands of a few."
So that quote, again, it says, "We accept and welcome, therefore, as conditions to which we must accommodate ourselves, great inequality of environment, the concentration of business, industrial and commercial, in the hands of a few." So you can obviously see that just this quote itself can lend itself to a, whether it's crony capitalism or just straight up communism or dictatorship. But in the context, if you understand what Carnegie was actually talking about, this is not prescriptive. This is descriptive. He's saying if there is to be winners and losers, then that is inherently going to have disparity. That's it.
As Geert Ardash puts it, in other words, rich people must be freed to make money however they can. Because
anybody must be free to make money however they can. Do you think that if you become rich, you should no longer be allowed to participate in a free capitalist society? What? Everyone must be free to make money however they can.
Because when they are, they tend to make a lot of money, which in
Yes.
turn brings progress for
Yes.
all.
Yes. So the whole quote, in other words, rich people must be free to make money however they can, because when they are, they tend to make a lot more money, which in turns bring progress for all, not just them, for all. So when the regulations and everything is pushed aside and there's an actual free market, then those who are able to navigate that and do good things, provide good services, not only make themselves money, but they improve society and life for those around them. I don't understand what the issue is here.
To put this in more clinical terms, under neoliberalism, which is the dominant economic and political system in the West, the mix of unregulated financial markets and the destruction of the welfare state means that those on the wrong side of the economic tracks must rely on those benefiting from an unequal system to help them reach a humane standard of living.
And I don't disagree with that, but what is the solution? Socialism? Communism? That's where all of this stuff leads. Like, there's no system is perfect, and there's problems with it. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand why people are so up in arms about this. I mean, you guys can go watch the rest of this video if you want, but I mean, that's basically the point. Is there's people just looking to find a problem with everything. This man has made a living. And, you know, they showed a thing with Bill Gates. And I remember when I was younger, they were talking about how Bill Gates was going to give away all of his money to charity. And somehow now he became the richest person in the world again. So I understand that in global philanthropy, there's squirrely stuff going on. I'm not ignorant to that. What I'm saying is that the Mr. Beast video is not an example of this. And it is not a good jumping off point if this is the conversation you want to have. You're just starting from the wrong place. The things that you're saying aren't necessarily wrong. They're just not applicable to this scenario. I don't know. Am I wrong? Is he wrong? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for partying with me, guys. Once again, I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Make sure you catch me live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Until then, I am out of here. Peace.